There's a dog named Faith that was born with no front legs but learned to walk on its hind legs. The dog and its owner both travel to military hospitals to demonstrate that even a dog with a severe disability can live a full life. Mike the Headless Chicken was a famous chicken from 1945 that was beheaded by a farmer for his dinner, but continued to live for another 18 full months. J.K. Rowling is the first author to reach billionaire status. She also holds the status of losing her billionaire status due to giving away most of her money. There are approximately 250,000 active patents applicable to the smartphone. Before Sylvester Stallone sold the script for Rocky, he was broke and had to sell his dog for $50. A week later, he sold the script and bought his dog back for $3,000. In Quebec, Sweden, and Norway, it's illegal to advertise directly to children. This is to prevent companies from encouraging children to beg their parents to buy them stuff. A grizzly bear's jaw strength is so powerful that it could crush a bowling ball with it. Blind people who have never seen before will still smile despite never having seen anyone else do it before because it's a natural human reaction. In Switzerland, if you fail your practical driver's license 3 times, you are required to consult an official psychologist to assess the reason for your previous failures before you're allowed to retake the exam. Jackie Chan is an actor as well as a pop star in Asia, releasing 20 albums since 1984. He also sings the theme songs to his own movies. The first commercial flight only lasted 23 minutes and cost $8,500 in today's money. It was between St. Petersburg, Florida and Tampa, Florida. The first ever occurrence of the name Wendy was in Peter Pan. This name had never been registered before the book's publication. Insurance companies have blacklisted Jackie Chan and anyone else who works on his stunt team. This means that if anyone gets injured while on the set of a Jackie Chan movie, he has to pay for their recovery treatment. Sea otters hold hands when they sleep so they don't drift away from each other. Some Japanese companies such as Sony, Toshiba and Panasonic have banishment rooms where they transfer surplus employees and give them useless tasks or even nothing to do until they become disheartened or depressed enough to quit on their own, thus avoiding paying them full benefits. In 1979, debris from NASA's space station Skylab crash landed in the town of Esperance, Western Australia, for which the town fined NASA $400 for littering. They actually paid it. When they made Breakout for Atari, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak agreed to split the pay 50-50. Atari gave Jobs $5,000 for it, but Jobs only told Wozniak he got $700, only giving him $350. The Pentagon spends over $250,000 each year to study the body language of world leaders like Vladimir Putin. There is a 1966 Volvo with more than 3 million miles on it. The Pixar team came up with the concepts of Wall-E, A Bug's Life, Monsters, Inc., and Finding Nemo all over a lunch break in 1994. Alan Gans holds the world record for the longest person as an ice cream man. He's been serving ice cream since 1947 in the greater Boston area and knows 90% of his customers by name. A college student in 1979 only had to work about 182 hours per year in order to pay for tuition. The average student in 2013 had to work over 991. A study once found that while sober, rats prefer silence, but on cocaine, they prefer jazz. Knowledge of silk production was thought to be very valuable, and the Chinese kept it a secret for over 3,000 years. In fact, it was so secret that anyone who revealed it was sentenced to death by imperial decrees. Panama is the only place in the world where one can see the sun rise on the Pacific Ocean and set on the Atlantic. On the set of the movie, Apocalypse Now, the production cast design decided to actually use real bodies instead of fake ones. It was only discovered when a pungent odor became too strong for the rest of the cast to ignore. Barbie's full name is Barbara Millicent Roberts. Her creator, Ruth Handler, invented her back in 1959 and named her after her daughter, Barbara. Ken also has a full name too, which is Ken Carson. During the Vietnam War, a South Vietnamese Air Force pilot stole a Chinook helicopter to save his family and friends. He flew them to the American destroyer Kirk and found that the landing deck was too small for the Chinook. Therefore, he hovered the Chinook just above the deck and dropped everyone aboard onto the ship's deck. He then rolled the Chinook onto its side and jumped into the sea. He and everyone on board survived. If a child loses their fingertip, It may sometimes grow back nail, bone and all, though without a fingerprint. Philip Morris discovered that its new fire-safe cigarettes were instead much more apt to cause fires. Their response was to fire the scientist who told them this. In 1832, 57 Irishmen were most likely murdered and buried in a mass grave in Malvern, Pennsylvania while working on a stretch of railway. Amtrak will not permit an excavation, so the men are still buried there to this day. A man's brain tumor caused him to orgasm whenever he looked at safety pins. In 1977, the band Pink Floyd tied a giant inflatable pig to a power station as a publicity stunt. The pig broke free and floated over Heathrow Airport, where all flights had to be grounded to avoid collisions with the pig. In 1970, due to a wheat production quota dispute between a farming family in West Australia and the government, the family declared their land to be independent of Australia and created a legal micronation called the Principality of Hutt River, which exists till today. In 1966, the U.S. Army released a bacterial agent into the New York City subway system to test how vulnerable passengers are to biological agents. While Hollywood and cartoons often depict nuclear waste as a gooey lime-green glowing substance, in reality, it is usually an innocuous-looking, colorless contaminated water. Some materials do glow like the radium Marie Curie worked with, but that glows blue, not green. There is a permanent underwater laboratory called Aquarius that is owned by NOAA but used by NASA to study how people handle extreme living conditions. Residents are referred to as aquanauts. Astronomers have discovered a planet where it rains glass silicate sideways, in howling 7,000 km winds. This gives the planet a blue hue. It is 63 light-years from us. Research has found that when ignored by that person whose attention means the most to you, the reaction in your brain is similar to that of physical pain. In shampoo and moisturizer ads, essential oils means that the oil gives off a distinctive scent, not that they're essential. Zambia had a space program in the 1960s. It consisted of a grade school science teacher, a teenage girl and her cat, and a missionary. In Armenia, all children aged 6 and up are taught chess at school, as it is a mandatory part of their curriculum. During World War II, a Soviet pilot named Alexei Moresiev was shot down by Germans. He dragged himself for 18 days to Soviet-controlled territory. After having his legs amputated, he learned how to fly with prosthetics and returned to combat. The very first time when DNA fingerprinting evidence was used in a criminal case, its use cleared a teenage suspect of a murder he had confessed to under intense grilling. Old NYC subway cars are dumped into the Atlantic Ocean to help build an artificial reef to serve as a habitat for marine life. A man blinked a book. Jean-Dominique Bobby, who suffered from the locked-in syndrome, could control only his left eyelid. By blinking his eye, he slowly dictated one alphabetic character at a time, and by doing so, was able to write his memoirs The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. During WW II, German Field Marshal Erwin Rommel would often personally pilot a reconnaissance aircraft over the battle to view the situation. Although Rommel did not have a pilot's license, his skill with machinery made him a competent pilot, and none of the Luftwaffe officers had the nerve to stop him. There's a time-honored tradition of allowing brewery employees all the free beer they wish while working. It's called Der Sterneworth. The average length of the adult spinal cord is 45 centimeters for men and 43 centimeters for women. If people sleep 8 hours each day, they sleep the equivalent of 122 days per year. The cerebellum is only 10% of the entire volume of the brain, but contains more than half of all of the neurons in the brain. There are 10 billion neurons in the human cerebral cortex. Thomas Willis coined the term neurology in 1681. In 2001, approximately 20.8% of the adults in the USA were smokers. In 1993, approximately 25.0% of the adults in the USA were smokers. Morphine, the analgesic pain reliever drug from the opium poppy, is named after the Greek god of dreams, Morpheus.